This one.
If you carry a firearm and discharge your weapon in self-defense, you could face hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees and expenses. So carry the protection of CCW Safe, Self-Defense Legal Services membership. Upfront payment of all criminal and civil defense costs with no out-of-pocket for members.
And we are back. I'm Chris Evan, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, joined tonight by my good friend, Lieutenant Colonel Doc Pete Chambers from the great state, the great Republic of Texas, I should say. Our in-house CIA operative, Jeff, MD, and author extraordinaire. And our in-house hairdresser does an amazing job. Mad Bomber Mike, you can see that he's got the whole thing going on tonight. It looks amazing, Mike. Good to see you. Glad to have you back.
Everybody says I'm the best hairdresser ever. Best hairdresser.
He's the inventor.
I'll take my hat off of that. There you go.
All right. So anyway, Cindy was at a conference. This was unplanned, not in the brief, but she was at a conference in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and there's some company there that makes these Japanese scissors that people just go bonkers for, and they pay obscene amounts of money for. And she's sending me pictures, and there's like half-naked men who are, lighting the loafers, going around this whole conference and everything. It was too funny. 100% unlike Mike Sterling, of course. I say that in all sincerity. So, Mike, hit us with the conflicted question, then we're going to pivot to Doc Pete for an announcement.
All right. Okay. So, conflicted question of the show, and we will everybody can ruminate on this for a while, and we're still going to talk about this at the very end, are we not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the question of the day is, at the edge of the collapse, a close friend who isn't a prepper begged you to help him buy his young family some supplies. Upon your arrival, the supermarket is packed with people who want to secure supplies as well, and emotions are running high. Your friend separates from you to grab something, and suddenly an argument breaks out over food. 3 men try to intimidate your friend. He snaps and pulls out a weapon, incapacitating 2 of the men. Chaos takes over. The police are on their way. What would you do in this situation?
Interesting question for sure. We shall see how that goes. Doc, the stage is yours.
All right. Well, first of all, it's been a while. Good to see you, gentlemen. It's always good to be here. We've been a little bit busy, and I say we collectively, our team, the Remnant A team. We've been coordinating with other teams around the country. Of course, been on the road a lot, and back in Texas again. We were in Mississippi a little bit. We had an Idaho trip, and human trafficking will go everywhere, right? And so that's what we're doing. We're putting fingers in the dike and trying to get ahead of it. But it's a tall order, and we're busy. And that's good and bad, right? We're busy. People are suffering. And we got to get to them. So that's good. And with that, we got thrown a curveball, right? So say about 3 weeks ago, sitting with a group of Texans and actually some folks from around the country, 3 Sundays ago, I got ambushed, right? So what do you do when you get ambushed, Mike? You attack the ambush.
Fight your way through it.
That's right. But I couldn't do that because these are great folks and, men and women of faith and children and dogs. So I couldn't fight my way through that. But I deflected. Let's just say I deflected. And the question of the day for them was, hey, Doc, what do you consider, would you consider running for governor of the state of Texas? I just sat there as campfire. I was like, well, that's a tall order. I know, but we consider you kind of the governor or the spiritual governor of the state of Texas in many, places that's come up. And Alex Jones said one time, Alex Jones said it. And I'm, I don't call myself that. Just going to say that down. But anyway, they said it and they planted a seed. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what, this is, there's no drinking involved. So I wanted to go ahead and put that out there. But I'm going to say that it's something in me as we were talking and they were presenting their case, said, in the absence of leadership, leaders lead. I've never wanted to seek anything on a running for office or anything like that. But I said, okay, well, I'll listen. And I said, but if I ever ran for anything, I was asked once to run for a second district, congressional seat. I said, no, that's legislators. I would probably throat punch somebody on the floor, and then the sergeant at arms would have to come get me and take me out. Right? I mean, that's a fact. I mean, I told the guy that. He said, what's your platform? I said, America. He's like, what's your America? How do I spell that? I'm like, well, if you don't know, then we don't need to be talking to you. But so I didn't do that, but I said I would do an executive position. I was considering sheriff, right? Sheriff's an executive.
Mhm.
Basically own the county. You protect your citizens. And then, I said, okay, I told that group, I'll take a week. I'll think about it. And in a week, I prayed and I said, Lord, just give me a booming voice. And literally the next day I'm driving, that was in Mississippi North Texas. And then I drove to Mississippi to a, counter human trafficking class for some law enforcement. And there it is. That booming voice called me on the way there, literally, next morning, and said, hey, we're down here in Mar-a-Lago, and we were considering some names, and one of your name was one of them floated for a possibility to run in the state of Texas for the gubernatorial position. I said, now you've been talking to a bunch of Christians up in North Texas. I know that this is a game now. I got it. These people are not connected. I said, well, I don't know about that. So I'll give you a week. I'll tell you the same thing. Of course, it's a lot longer than this. Bottom line up front, I gave him a week. I said, okay, now we've got to do a fact-finding mission, which we're still in right now, right? So when you get on a plane and you're going to go jump out of it, there's two lights at the door. One is red, the other one's green. Once that red light goes off and the green light goes, you jump. So, but you still have the possibility of the plane to turn around, still red, and go back. So if that happens, that's what we're going to do. But if we fit all the requirements, and we feasibly believe that even though this is a David and Goliath story, with a little Gideon mixed in, we're going to go. So that's where we're at. And within the next 48, 72 hours, we'll know. There you go.
That's fantastic news, Doc. We will put every effort that we possibly can into supporting your candidacy. Without taking us too far off topic, Greg Abbott has some fairly well-known ties back to the World Economic Forum, and while on the whole he has done an okay job, a better alternative, specifically you, would be a great move, not just for Texas but for the entire country. So, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say real quick, Texas. I mean, of course, I'm down here. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. I might be a little biased, considering the flag behind me, but it is the first domino of the flyover states. All right, and it is that. And there's a lot of things about Texas that it's a huge energy sector, et cetera. One of probably either the 12th or 15th largest military. If it was a country, the Republic of Texas, it would be probably in that 12th to 15th level as far as numbers of planes and things like that. Not Navy, but other than that, we there's a significance to that. Abbott's been in there 3 terms. He's done. I've worked for him directly, been on his staff and the task forces and all that. I've briefed him directly. I have respect for every man and woman in those positions. I know it's tough, and we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But I won't sharpshoot. I'll just tell the truth. And sometimes it's time for people to move on and let some new blood in there. We're on a war footing, America, Texas.
Yeah, so my biggest concern right now is that the other side, the globalists in particular, are taking aim at Texas because they know if they take Texas, they take America. And we've got to do everything we can to reinforce the state of Texas before that potentially happens. So anyway, super exciting news, Doc. Really, really appreciate you doing that. So I'm going to bring up the first article here, and I'll pivot to Jeff first. To get his input. I got to get you all on stage, so give me 2 seconds here. All right, there we go. So it's no secret now that last night Iran hit a hospital in Israel, and there's quite a bit of footage that's come out. And in addition to that, it looks like they hit some other residential areas as well. Jeff, I'm just going to come straight to you first to get your input on this. This kind of seems like a fairly serious escalation. Not that I want to get drug into this war at all, but how would you frame it?
Yeah, I mean it is, but you're assuming they did it on purpose. I don't think their missiles are that accurate. They may have some that have more advanced guidance packages, but for the most part, yeah, they're basically glorified scuds. Kind of a fire, lob it in the general direction and hope it hits something. They hit the equivalent of the Israeli Pentagon the other day. And to be quite honest, I think that's just dumb luck. Israel's not a big country, and they got a lot of military installations. So if you lob enough rockets, and you're going to hit something of value at some point. But regardless, they're blindly firing into areas they know are basically full of civilians. Israel, whether you agree with them or not, they have been selectively going after military targets or leadership targets. They're not bombing neighborhoods. They're not blowing up schools and hospitals. They're doing precision strikes against very specific targets. Whereas the Iranians, to be honest, I don't think they have the capability to do that, but they're more than happy to just lob whatever they can and see where it lands.
The maps that show the bubbles where the Israelis have hit Iran, it's a lot of locations.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an insignificant number.
But they're all on purpose.
Right. So, Mike, question for you. How are all these missiles getting through the Iron Dome? I mean, when this initially happened, the first volley a couple months ago or whatever it was, they seemed to stop everything. Now you've got stuff getting through. Are they running out of armaments?
Okay, so for starters, you have to remember that Iron Dome, David Sling, Arrow, all those, the entire system is a triage-based system. If they've got a missile plot coming in, and that missile is going to be hitting a completely open area, it's going to drop in a desert or something like that, it completely falls off the map. They don't even pay attention to those. If they're short on missiles, they have to protect the infrastructure first. And that's the bottom line. So now we're looking at, I think as of last night, I think we were looking at about 40 missiles have made it through the system and have actually impacted into population areas or bases. And, let's face it, you've got a lot of, Israel's a little bit full until you get down into the Negev and stuff in the south. So if you look at that and you look at the numbers are dwindling on their systems. However, if you've got about 40 missiles that made it through and impacted, but you've got over 400 that were fired, man, that's not a bad ratio. It's really not. I mean, every missile can't get shot down. Period. That's just the way that air defense is. It just doesn't work that way. There's no 100% solution ever. And the Israelis have been pumping missiles out left, right, and center. And a lot of this stuff that's coming in, this is the stuff that has to get hit by David Sling or arrows. All right. They're doing a lot of these intercepts outside the atmosphere. You see some really beautiful hits up there too. And you also have to remember that in some of these cases, you're winding up with some of these missiles have multiple warheads that break loose. So you can hit it and that warhead's still coming down somewhere, right? Just because you intercept it doesn't mean that the warhead's still not going to fall to earth and detonate somewhere. So that's a thing that you have to look at. And then if you have a dozen warheads, or they popped one day before yesterday, I believe it was, that they lobbed a volley of them that came over that were loaded with submunitions. So you have to look at, okay, we hit that. Maybe we destroyed a third of the submunitions that came down. And each one of those submunitions coming out of that big MRBM, each one probably about the size of like a 75 millimeter shell.
Interesting. 3 inches, good size. So before we pivot back to Doc, and I want to get Doc's input on this suggestion, this rumor maybe that the Israelis turned off the Iron Dome to let some through so that they could get more support from us. A quick question for you, Mike, and this is from Mach 1 Babe. And so she asked, do you think what China has just sent Iran is more advanced technology? And we saw a lot of stuff from China fail in the short engagement between Pakistan and Iran. And in the long term, we've seen plenty of countries buy what's supposed to be world-class equipment from China only to get a full refund on it because it doesn't work. But you're the bomb expert, the munitions expert. So take a swing at that before we go to Doc.
So those 3 birds that snuck in from China night after night, one of the thoughts on that, because they flew in fast. I don't think that they were loaded with very much. If they brought in anything, I would be willing to bet that they brought in probably GPS jammers, because for some reason these idiots keep on thinking that all these munitions are only GPS guided, as opposed to they mostly run 3 totally different systems. So you take out GPS, you've dropped your circular arrow probability on like a JDAM system that the Israelis are using. You take it from 1 meter. Now the circular error probability is 2.5 meters. Who cares? So yeah, I'd be willing to bet they brought in GPS jammers, but the question is, what did they take back out? And that's the big question. So are they taking out Chinese technicians out of the nuclear program, or are they taking nuclear material out?
Interesting.
Trying to cover their own asses.
Had not thought of that angle whatsoever. Thanks, Mike. So this is just a quick 8-second video. I'm not even sure if it's in English or not, but we'll let it play. And then, Doc, I want to get your thoughts on this suggestion that Israel maybe deliberately turned off the Iron Dome to galvanize support for them.
Zimmermann, ich bin Ihnen dankbar für den Begriff Drecksarbeit.
Yeah, we're not going to listen to that. Doc.
Okay. Well, obviously, yes. Garnering support is probably a technique. And look, when you're the, we'll just call it the bulldog, like we're, pit bull of Israel is a pit bull. It's going to strike first. It's going to protect zone. It's done that since, 1947. I mean, it's just that way. So they're going to go out there and they're going to strike hard and fast. Speed, surprise, violence of action. That's what they've done, right? So with us as the big guy on the block and an ally, so to speak, we it's kind of like the pit bull's out there at the end of the chain right now, and he's getting a little beat up, and then he's receiving fire. I've got to make this big dude come out here, my bodyguard, and actually act. But President Trump is he's a tactician, and he's got some great people now at the helm. We're not in the era of getting out of Afghanistan Pentagon. So we're in a different era. And so the challenges are going to be there. You're going to have the neocon type, war hawks. They're going to be, striking, their fists on the desk. They lost, the momentum in the Ukraine. So they're going to continue to strike, because that's going to be then military industrial complex stuff. I get it. That's going to be the argument that is posed. But the president has to say, cool. I mean, he's got to stay cool, and he is, because he understands that there are a lot more factors than just, striking back with missile systems. He's got to keep some things in reserve, and I think he's doing a good job of it. But this is exactly if that was the case. These are hypersonics, right? I think if you fire enough of them, you're going to defeat any kind of system, because they're flying pretty dang fast. However, lack of targeting was demonstrated in this last salvo.
Well said. Appreciate the input there.
Real
Doc.
quick on that. The circular probability on a bunch of the Iranian MRBMs, medium range ballistic missiles, and they keep trying to call them ICBMs, and it's like, no, these don't go that far. So these MRBMs, their guidance is measured in kilometers, not meters, kilometers. They can aim at a city. That's it. Their targeting is awful, and always has been. The further away they get, the more inaccurate they are.
And just for our audience's benefit who don't speak metric, a kilometer is 1,000 meters, and a meter is 3 inches longer than a yard, to give you some perspective there. 0.6 of a mile per kilometer. So I'm just going to play this one quickly. It's 4 seconds. So this is a propaganda account here that always posts pro-Iranian stuff, and they posted the Iranian missiles are tearing through the skies, headed straight to the Zionist entity's bedrooms. 4-second video. Hard to tell, how fast that's traveling because you have nothing really to measure it against. But there's been multiple reports of people grabbing these videos, dropping them on a product like AIorNot.com, and it'll come back and it'll say, yeah, that's AI generated. It's not real. But the Iranians have cranked out a bunch of AI generated propaganda recently. So next one up to you, Jeff, on this. So Israel hits Iran's Iraq nuclear reactor, and then the video goes viral, of course. So I'll play this quickly. It's only 32 seconds. That looks like a precision strike to me as a layman.
Mm-hmm. God, beautiful.
Then this looks like the entrance right here is pretty darn accurate.
Yeah. You're muted, Jeff.
Yeah, I would think it's probably at least 1,000 pound JDAM.
Oh, at least.
At least.
Yeah, it's probably a blue 119 penetrator.
It could be, yeah, very well be, because if that's Iraq was a plutonium reactor. We pray it was going to be a plutonium production reactor, but I think technically they reconfigured it so it couldn't be used for that. But yeah,
it's still a heavy water reactor.
Yeah, it can take natural uranium and then cook it, burn it, and then you get a lot of plutonium out of that. Yep. For reference, heavy water reactors are what we used at the Savannah River site in South Carolina, and they also use those in Hanford, Washington. That's where we got the plutonium for the Nagasaki bomb. Mm-hmm. But if that has a containment around it, which it probably does, containment for nuclear reactors are very, very tough. The Palo Verde nuclear power plant here in Arizona, I think the base of the containment building is 25 feet thick, reinforced concrete. I think at its thinnest, it's 2 or 3 feet thick, reinforced concrete with a metal shell inside of that. So you really have to hit it. They're designed to take a direct hit from an airliner. So you really got to hit it with something tough to get through that. But once you do, it's the gooey insides that you're trying to get at.
So while we've got you on deck here, Jeff, is there any way that we can detect whether or not there's radioactive stuff coming out of this from a distance?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
so do we know?
We'll be shooting that for a long time. And not only that, we'll be able to, once we do, we'll be able to tell you what they were burning and how long they burned it. We're really good at that. We could get a sample of Russian stuff and not only tell you what reactor it came out of, but we can tell you when they made it. I mean, like what month and year. They're really good at the isotopes.
Oh yeah,
we're the best in the world at that.
Oh yeah, nobody on this planet can pop a nuke without us knowing exactly where it came from within 12 hours.
And even if it's underground, the vent gases will tell you everything you need to know about it. We have airplanes that fly around and just sniff that stuff out.
So Mike and Doc, I want to get both of your comments on this one here. There's some people from the Obama/Biden administration in the past 24 hours that have come out and said, well, you just ignore them when they say that they want to destroy America. I was there and I heard them all say destroy America. But then when they were done for the cameras, they were very hospitable, nice people, blah, blah, blah. I mean, what's your opinion, Mike, on people from the Obama admin speaking out of the side of their mouth like that? Do they truly think we're that stupid? Same question for Doc as well.
I honestly think that they do think that we're that stupid. Now, the Persian people are incredibly nice people. Like it says, wonderfully civilized people. The mullahs and the IRGC thugs, on the other hand, completely different show. They are out of their heads. They are religious fundamentalist nut bars. But the Persian people, I absolutely love them. Love their cooking too.
Right on. So Doc, I mean, this particular individual, this Peter Hitchens, says that Iran is just misunderstood. But
yeah, so yeah, I'm going to tell you, I spent a lot of time studying this place. Man kam Farsi Gabsadan, so that was my language, Farsi. That means I spoke a little bit of it. This is what I understand, and what I understand on the ground, and then from people that have been inside there is there is, and Jeff, please weigh in, on your side. There's an insidious, and it's been for a while, since after 79. There's been an insidious onset, essentially slow onset regime change, but it has not received the momentum to call it a color revolution because it doesn't have the same support that a lot of those do in the form of unconventional warfare. So, when you can't do it that way, it's not full onset. But the people there, great people. My instructor was from, Tehran. So these are great folks, very intellectually, they're sound in general, educated. But when you get to that, exactly the mullah level, it's just like the mullahs in Pakistan and the madrasas. They're the only people reading, Arabic to interpret for the masses, and they change it. They're false prophets, if you will, in their religion.
So Admiral Robert Harward, who's an acquaintance of ours, his father was an admiral as well, and Bob went to high school in Tehran. It was an American high school, and to this day, he has reiterated exactly what the three of you are saying, that the Persian people themselves are good people, kind of like our government in some instances not being so great, but Americans being good people. Just a quick anecdote on this, Doc. I was at Sam's Club with Cindy about 6 months ago, and this guy comes up to me and he recognizes me from Survival Dispatch. And he was Iranian, and he escaped Iran during the revolution. And he said that he was, a spec ops guy, and that they had captured 400 of these spec ops guys, and they were bringing them into this room 5 at a time, making them go down on their knees and shooting them in the back of the head. So the executioner had to leave for whatever reason. So there was one of these guys, whatever they're called, mullahs or whatever, and he was going to continue the executions, and he went to pull a pistol and it got stuck in his robe, according to this guy, and they managed to get the gun and take control of the situation and escape Iran. It was pretty interesting, but he literally followed us around Sam's to tell us how much he loves America. It was a really interesting encounter, to say the least. So next one up here, Jeff and Doc, feel free to weigh in on this because it's definitely related to Texas. But there's been a bunch of naysayers out there that are saying, oh, if Trump pulls the trigger on this, and trust me, I don't want him to pull the trigger on this, but if Trump pulls the trigger on this, that oil prices are going to skyrocket. But we're already well on our way to taking advantage of our tremendous oil reserves. But this was one of very few articles I could find where they basically said what I just said. Don't worry about the oil. If this escalates, we got the oil bases covered. So Jeff and then Doc, go ahead and weigh in on that.
Yeah, Iran will still export oil simply because they have no other way to get any other source of income. And China will still buy their oil because China doesn't give a rat's ass about international sanctions. And oil is fungible. For every barrel of oil that Iran produces, that frees up another barrel of oil from another country. Your car doesn't care if the gasoline came from Iran, Saudi Arabia, or anywhere else. So as long as they're producing, which they have to, it shouldn't really affect a whole lot. It could cause some troubles if they start going after ships in the Persian Gulf and then Straits of Hormuz. But if they do that, they're going to get nuked into oblivion. I mean, literally nuked. The United States Navy will just go in and just sink their Navy. And the Saudis and the Kuwaitis and everybody else will help because it's their ships that are going to be getting targeted. They have Silkworm missiles, which is a Chinese-made anti-ship missile along the coast. Those sites would go away. I would give them maybe 24 hours. So they would have, their Navy would be the next reef probably within 72 hours if they start doing stupid stuff like that. We've done it to them before.
So, Doc, I mean, speaking from the state of Texas,
Yep.
and oil production.
Well, let me put it to you this way, my friend. If I were the governor of Texas, this is perfect. You set me up. Now listen, here's the reality of what's going on with oil in Texas. You remember when Trump was in the rotunda and he said, drill, baby, drill, and everybody's like, yes, right? And then we saw, down here, especially in the when price points reach a certain point per barrel to take it out of the ground, you're not taking it out of the ground. All right. And then all you got to do is drive through the Permian Basin. And this is how I do it. I was just there the other day. That's down Midland, Odessa. You watch the little pump jacks. If most of them aren't pumping during the Biden administration, they weren't, we're in trouble. Right. So I just gauge on that. It's just a real empiric study. But there are several things that I would do. Number one, I would get back our refineries back online. Several of our refineries were taken down offline. Now they're not taken down; they're taken offline. Sometimes that could take up to years to get those things pumping again or refining again. That's number one. That's what I'd be doing right now. Where I would be pulling off the EPA. Even though Trump says drill, baby, drill, there's still EPA control measures. So when I talk to my landman friend, landmen, they arrange the deals between people. These guys, he's like, man, we want that to happen, but you're not seeing it. We got tons of that. We could take this thing for the next 200 years and just straight up, own this thing completely and be self-sufficient again. But it's just not happening because there's so many controls that are still in place. A lot of bureaucrats dragging their feet. It takes a while from flash to bang on that. So I would be working on that. Then the third thing, most importantly for the citizens of Texas, we have to remember, and they being Trump and the Pentagon, they should not make their decisions upon this, like to say, well, if you do this, then domestically, we got to consider the numbers of terrorist sleeper cells that came through with Tren de Arad. Well, no, they're not Iranians, but the Venezuelans, that's where they're from. Some of those guys were using documents that were actually Iranian. So you got these sleeper cells that have come through with Venezuelan docs who are sitting there somewhere in Texas. So what would I be doing? I'd be mounting up my Texas Ranger Special Operation Groups out right now to be not standing up, but to have, I would pray, a working model for what the reaction is going to be. Because if then therefore, if that happens, he goes hard on them with bombers straight up, U.S. bombers. Our capabilities are not in question. It's the second and third order effects of the combatants on our combatants that should be in the mix, and upon our citizens with regard to sleeper cells.
I appreciate that, Doc. So, Mike, I'm going to come to you in a second just because Jeff mentioned the Navy, and I've got some questions as far as what the Ukrainian drones did to those Tu bombers in Russia. But just a quick reminder, if you go to survivaldispatchnews.com, sign up for a free Substack account, because every Saturday we send out a watch guide that includes links to everything we publish for the week. My inbox has been bombed for 2 years now from people saying I never get notifications when you all publish new content. Substack, free account, you'll get our Saturday watch guide, as well as the fact if you could help support our sponsors, CCW Safe and Carnivalt in particular, but also Compliant Technologies, we would appreciate very much. That's what allows us to work long hours to bring you the truth. Mike, so let's say, we send the Navy in to take out these Iranian ships that are trying to get oil out of the country. Are our ships at risk like the Russian bombers were?
So I think the biggest threat there in the Persian Gulf, and the Iranians are going to go back to what they know, and they will mine the Strait of Hormuz again. They love dropping naval mines all over the place, and they were real bad the last time they did this about taking moored mines and just unhooking the weights and the anchor chain from them and just let it float. And they're just floating all over the Persian Gulf, and that's how what was the name of that ship that we had a ship get hit in the Persian Gulf so decade or two ago. I can't even remember. Anyway, the Iranians are big on doing that. Now they will run drones. That's a problem. And if you overwhelm the air defenses on a on a ship, well, then there's not a whole hell of a lot. I mean, you can only shoot down so many of the damn things. I don't know. Jamming, of course, will be a big thing. You're not going to be able to run fiber optic, run drones out there, not that far off the coast. So I think mines are going to be their big thing. They'll run plenty of Shahed drones anyway, and anti-ship missiles, of course. We're good at shooting all that stuff down. It's just going to be a question of, will they go on ahead and just overwhelm them? I don't think that they've quite learned the primary lesson in this world of don't touch America's boats. That's just a bad thing. Ask the Japanese; they'll tell you.
Well,
Right.
the other issue too is if they mine the straits and shut down traffic, they can't export either. 90% of their stuff comes out of Karg Island, and if we, if we take out Karg Island, then they may mine the straits, because they're like, well, if we can't export, neither can you.
Where's that in relation to the map that's up right now, Jeff?
Karg Island is up kind of in the northeast corner of the Persian Gulf, closer to Kuwait. I can't even see it on that thing.
No, you were zoomed in where you needed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Zoom in a little further.
Yeah, zoom in where a little further.
Yeah, there it is.
So this is the Strait of Hormuz.
Right.
Yeah. Go up the Gulf.
Go up the
Up
Gulf.
this way?
Right around, just north of that. Yep, right.
Almost had your pointer
Too
on
far
it.
north. You almost had your pointer on it. It's on the right-hand side.
Right
of the
there.
Gulf.
Right
Yeah,
there.
right in that area.
Yeah, right in there.
Okay. So explain the significance of this again,
that's
Jeff.
it. It's Karg Island. It is where they have most of the refinery, their biggest concentration of refineries. It's their major export facility for oil. And the whole friggin' island is a petrochemical plant, basically. So if they mine the Straits of Hormuz, they can't get their oil out. But if we take out Karg Island, then they may say, well, if we can't export, you can't export. So then they shut down the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay. I just had a quick look, and it said that the Strait of Hormuz at its tightest is 21 miles. Does that sound right?
Yeah, it's tight.
sounds right.
Well, so that next question to you then, Doc, is that Elon Musk posted this map of where we have bases essentially surrounding Iran. I'm curious what your thoughts are in the Strait of Hormuz, which is right here where my cursor is. Can we essentially hit that area from multiple land and sea locations, Doc?
Absolutely. And if you're going to keep it limited, remember, we've got to conduct, they would conduct what's called a Carver matrix, right? At a different level, strategic level Carver matrix. Criticality, accessibility, recuperability. We have to look at it and say, how critical is it? Can we access it? What's the recuperability? Because you don't want to shut things down so long if you put a bunch of floating mines out there that, now everybody's subject to getting blown to bits. So I've got to do as little damage, but with the most results, and keeping them on their heels. And that's this game right now. And from the land, absolutely, you can do it with drones now. I mean, we could do a drone strike in there without even putting human bodies at risk. Yeah.
Interesting. So I zoomed in on that Karg Island here, and the first thing that struck me is this road here is called Oil Boulevard.
Yeah.
So you can see all the tanks here, and they've got an airstrip here as well.
But there's undersea pipelines that connect it to the mainland. And then
that's what I was going to ask you, how they get the oil from the mainland to the island.
Okay. It connects to the mainland. And that's been a big facility for decades. I mean, that from before the Shah.
Yeah, since the 50s.
We probably built most of it back in the day, U.S. oil companies. And
Can we say, though, that just as a possibility, maybe a 200, maybe 500 meter target for the Israelis, shades of Nord Stream here, with the pipeline?
If they hit the best place to hit it, the safest place to hit it would be onshore at the manifolds entering the pipelines that go to the island. You can blow those up fairly easily. We did that to Kuwait during the first Gulf War when Saddam was just pumping oil into the Gulf, making an environmental disaster. We took out the manifolds on land to stop the pollution going into the Gulf. You could probably do the same thing there.
Thank you, sir.
So this is a longer video. I'm not going to play the whole video. It's 11 minutes and 49 seconds long. But Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad leaders reveal Iranian funding of their organization's military activity in jihad. Memory TV compilation video. I'll play a minute or so of it.
ولن نضيق على أحد ولن نطلب من واحد إنه ناخد منه قرش واحد لحماس أو للقسام. Hamas and the Qassam brigades have their own sources of income, and they do not need to take a cut from the aid and reconstruction money. At this point, there's something that needs to be said. Our complete gratitude is extended to the Islamic Republic of Iran, which has spared us and other Palestinian resistance factions nothing in recent years. They have provided us with money, weapons, and expertise. So I'll go ahead and stop it there. And Jeff, this is kind of in your wheelhouse.
Yahya Sinwar is he's been unalived by the Israelis for quite some time now. But yeah, they've been supporting Hezbollah for decades. They've been supporting Hamas. It's not that they love Hamas, because Hamas are Sunnis and they are Shia, but the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. Hezbollah is mostly Shia, so there's a religious connection there. But yeah, the hate Israel, so anyone who is fighting Israel, they'll give money to.
Okay, and significant amounts of money, I assume.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So Doc and Mike, I'm going to pivot to the next one here because there's a wild card. So I'll be with Drew Burquist tomorrow from Mammoth Nation. We're going to be recording some content in his studio in Jacksonville, and Drew and I are going to discuss this. But Doc and Mike, I want to hear your thoughts on this. So Turkey has the third largest standing army in the world. They are a NATO member, but Erdogan, if that pronunciation is close. Fair enough. I knew you'd correct me. He came out and just said today that he's going to back Iran and not Israel or America. Doc, I want to get your thoughts first, and then Mike, you can unload on this.
Well, first of all, I'm going to start with shades of revelation. This is I don't have all the answers to who Gog and Magog is, but I'm going to say that they're going to be. I'm not going to go into that. I'm going to say that there is Erdogan is a tough nut, right? And the guy may potentially be nuts. I don't know, but he's hanging on to power. He considers himself the toughest kid on the block down there, and by numbers he is. However, he's not making friends with his NATO partners or his right across the Aegean there. He's always kicking the Greeks in the teeth, and they're doing the same to him. So you're seeing that. So he's going to posture with what he believes, and it may be religious. I doubt it. I don't know him that well. I don't have any brief on him, but I would say that this guy is he's posturing for power, and that's completely what he does. We saw what he did with the Saudis down in there in the embassy over there. That's what this guy does. He's completely ruthless.
Yeah, so actually I got to go back to this one. Doc, go ahead and respond to this. Rashad Ali, the Houthis whipped the U.S. Navy in the Red Sea with less weapons and less powerful weapons. Iran can absolutely shut down the Persian Gulf. That will undoubtedly kill the U.S. economy rather quickly. Sounds like a pipe dream to me, but actually I'll give all three a chance to swing at this. Doc first.
Rhetoric. Next.
Yeah. Well, Jeff, then Mike. What are the probabilities that this is a paid instigator? Because we see a lot of that now.
He may be. No. Did the Houthis whip the U.S. Navy? No, they did not. we did more damage to ourselves and our ships taking turns too tight and having planes fall off the aircraft.
Funny,
and
not
they've,
funny.
and they've got they've been pretty much wiped out. They've been pretty quiet lately. And everything they had, they got from Iran. And how does it get to them? Well, it goes to the Persian Gulf. And if you shut down the Persian Gulf, they can't get any more weapons. So, yeah, that's BS. It's not going to kill our economy. It's going to make Texas' economy go up if oil prices go high.
Mike, go ahead and speak to that. And then I want to read this highlighted section for all of you to comment on. Go ahead, Mike.
You know what? I'm gonna go with what these guys said, and I'm gonna add in Ali. Can I have some of what you're smoking?
All right. So back to Turkey here. So this is from the leader of Turkey. I'm going to do that instead of mispronouncing his name. We will further increase our domestic and national production rate, which we have raised from 20% to 80%. We will continue with patience, determination, perseverance, and firm steps until we achieve our goal of full independence in the defense industry. Turkey already has a very active defense industry and boasts the largest army in the region. So the leader of Turkey seems to be sending a message to Israel and the world, addressing Israeli attacks on Iran and rising tensions in the region. He said Turkish officials were on high alert and preparing contingency plans for all possible risks. He further said, we will raise our deterrence to such a level that not only will no one attack us, but no one will even dare to think of it. He added that Turkey had recently completed a number of national defense projects, including air defense systems, warships, cruise missiles, armed drones, and helicopters. So we'll go from bottom up. Start with you, Mike.
Okay, as far as Turkey's concerned, so Erdogan, he got into office by pandering to the Islamic fundamentalists in the country and in the government. Also, he ran on a big platform, looking, trying to tell everybody, hey, we can have the Ottoman Empire back. And none of those things are going to wind up happening. Turkey still is dysfunctional as hell on just about everything domestically. They're a mess. If they were such a bunch of killers, why haven't they finished taking out the Kurds that they've been dealing with for, I don't know, ever? Considering that the Kurds have been slapping them around like there was no tomorrow. Yes, they're a NATO member. They're the worst NATO member. Everybody agrees they're awful. Honestly, how they haven't been just kicked out by the General Assembly, I have no idea. We don't need them against the Soviets anymore because there's no more Soviets. Why do we have you anymore, Turkey? So that guy, he's just playing a balancing act. He's pandering to the people that he's got, trying to stay in office. That's all he's doing. He's an idiot.
So hold on, Mike. Your friend Ali has responded here.
Oh, I saw.
The Red Sea is still closed to U.S. and Israeli ships, and Trump and the U.S. Navy were forced to retreat from Yemen. That's a whipping. My recollection is that we unleashed a bunch of missiles against them and smoked the Houthis in Yemen.
Okay.
Doc, go ahead.
I got to say something. You remember that scene? You remember that scene from Monty Python and the Holy Grail, the night they got his arms and legs cut off? Come back over here. I'll bite your kneecap. It's really a scratch, a flesh wound. No, come on, bro. Stop it. Just stop. It's just this whole line of, the Turks. Look, they're a NATO partner. If they want to get out of NATO, they just need to, crap or get off the pot. I mean, just tell it like it is. But they get a lot of money from NATO, which unfortunately comes mostly from the United States. If I were the president of the United States, but Trump's in there, and I believe he's gonna hold the line on that one. So that's it's crazy stuff.
Let me throw a few numbers out there. So the Turkish Armed Forces is one of the largest militaries in NATO, second only to the United States, consists of land forces, naval, and air. Here's a breakdown of its size. Total personnel, active duty, approximately 355,000 to 613,000. That's quite the range, with estimates varying by source. The International Institute for Strategic Studies reports 355,000, while some sources claim 613. Reserves, 180,000 to 380,000. Plus a paramilitary. Breakdown by branch: land forces 260,000, naval 45,000, air force approximately 50,000. They have mandatory military service for men aged 20 to 41.
started that in 2019, and over 75% of the Army, 325,000 out of 402,000, consists of conscripts, while the Air Force relies entirely on professional contract personnel. Defense budget estimated 19 to 25 billion annually, representing 1.89% of their GDP. So, I mean, they have some size to them, but a fraction of the size of our military, right?
Yeah. Okay. If you draft people,
That's correct.
You're going to have a big military. And the thing with Turkey, there's two things. One, I think a lot of this is for domestic consumption more than anything else. They act like someone's going to attack them. No one's going to attack Turkey anytime soon. And all their forces look impressive, but they have no way to project power beyond beside their own border reasons.
Maybe Greece.
But the other thing, though, is a lot of this is for the Europeans' consumption. I bet if they went to the Europeans and said, if you let us in the EU, we'll make friends with the Israelis and be bad to the Iranians, they'd probably do it in a heartbeat. They've been trying to get in the EU. The EU doesn't want them. So there's that. I think they're trying to build up some leverage. But, yeah, it's all bluster. I mean,
That's bluster.
So comment of the night goes to Roy. I read there are no Walmarts in Iran, only Targets.
That's a good one.
Gentlemen, golf clap.
Yeah, 100%. Good job, Roy. Well done. So, Doc, I'll come to you first on this one. So Putin is saying that he offered joint missile defense projects to Iran, but they declined. And that was from today, by the way. This is very current. What do you make of that? Yeah, you can't hear us, Doc? Testing. Mike?
Okay, you're back now. You were garbled and broken. I think you're good. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah. So Putin said today that he offered joint missile defense projects to Iran, but they declined. I'm curious what you make of that.
Well, I wouldn't believe everything you're reading there. First of all, I mean, it's just there's going to be backside stuff. Look, when we're talking about Turkey a second ago, I was having lunch with a Wagner Force guy in Turkey. Not too long ago. He was on vacation from the war in Syria, right? So this is how this area works. You're not going to know unless you're on the ground in there. So I don't put a lot in that. I think they're probably already helping it.
Okay, Jeff, next one for you here, just because we're coming up to the top of the hour quickly. This news highlights the depth of military ties between Iran and Venezuela. Venezuela's top military commander visited the Iranian mission and publicly condemned Israel, referring to it as the Zionist state and denouncing its actions against Iran. You already touched, or Doc touched, I guess, on Venezuela, but thoughts on Venezuela being a part of this? I mean, there's a lot of countries, let's say, taking sides in this dispute between Iran and Israel. How much? What's the potential? What are the betting odds that this could turn into a major, worldwide type of conflict, Jeff?
I wouldn't give them high odds, because if you look at the people who are openly backing Iran, and none of them are saying they'll fight for Iran, they're just saying, yay, Iran. And Venezuela, again, they don't have a big military, they can't project power, who cares? Turkey is not going to do it. They're part of NATO. They're not, why do they care anyway? Now is Iran in bed or in tight with the Venezuelans? Yeah, sure. So was Hezbollah and Hamas. But it's the enemy of my enemy is my friend. We want to do illegal things in South America, and let's find somebody who will just let us do that. Hey, that's Venezuela. And Venezuela's like, hey, you're a thorn in the American side. I don't like the Americans. Sure, do what you want. They're not going to declare war on the United States in support of Iran. That didn't happen.
Fair enough.
No one in the Middle East is either, because they all hate the Iranians.
Doc, you want to circle back to your input on Venezuela?
Right. Well, and there's been a softening inside of Venezuela, and it's specifically with the fact that there was some disarray that took place with the Cartel del Solos. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. The Cartel of the Suns, right? And their symbol is the general's rank, right? Which is a sun in Venezuela. So they're a little bit disarray right now. We're watching that because it does feed into what happens to the cartels on the border. They are the largest cartel it's south of our border, believe it or not, because they are government backed, because they are made up of generals in the Venezuelan army. So I mean, things are getting a little more chaotic there, but I believe that they're softening up with regard to negotiations with our State Department. And I know there's some backside channel and stuff going on. I don't know the specifics of it, but I can see it. I'm hearing it. So.
Okay. Thanks, Doc. Mike, next one up is for you. Again, we only have a couple left here to get to the end of this, but Israel-Iran war. Trump unsure if bunker buster bomb could destroy Iran's Fordow nuclear site. Is this why the U.S. is not attacking Tehran? I think that's probably, BS, but what's your input on that?
So Fordow has got about 100 meters of rock and soil sitting on top of it.
Okay.
So that's a full football field turned on its side. Now the GBU-57 is designed specifically to be able to get into that. And that's the MOP, the Massive Ordnance Penetrator. And I keep on seeing so many people trying to say, oh, use a MOAB. Now, the Massive Ordnance Air Burst. It's actually, that thing's meant to detonate above ground. The MOP is a great system. Honestly, I think it could do it. The problem is we don't know enough about the layers between in that 100-meter side. If they were smart about it and laid out, say, a full 20 meters of rock, loose rock in there, that's going to deviate things. That's going to make it weird. Each B2 can drop 2 of them. Usually what you do is you drop one and it opens a nice big hole, and then you drop your second one into the same hole.
I was going to ask you that
a couple of minutes later. Yeah.
So what if we hit them with a few B2s in a row? Like if we hit, 3, 4, 5 of them with 2 bombs each.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You could do it then. Even if you just, honestly, I think you could probably get away with 2 birds. Okay. Throw a third one in just for, for having the Department of Redundancy department help out. There's also the other problem of we don't necessarily know what's down there in Fordow. That's the other big problem is how many levels is Fordow? The other option is the Israelis send in a bunch of commandos, it's pretty much a one-way run because it's deep inside Iranian territory. There's at least a brigade of the Iranian army stationed fairly nearby. Man, those underground deep strike programs, and that ain't an easy thing to do, man. And a lot of the time, I mean, Doc and Jeff, you've seen the plans that we screwed with for Korea or North Korea. Man, the guys that would do that kind of stuff, you're going to wind up with a major land battle up above your head. So I don't know, man. Personally, should they drop the MOPs? Yes, I honestly think that they should entomb those bastards. Call it a day, be done with it. It kind of makes me wish that we still had 44,000-pound blockbusters left over from World War II, but only so much as you can get.
Another option would be you fake a commando attack, let all their troops come in, drop a MOAB on them.
Right, there you go.
In and take your time.
Now
you talked me into it.
Yeah,
yeah. Leave it to
it's oddly enough. This was my Robin Sage culmination exercise or mission, and I was tasked with taking my ODA and going into a old Cold War era bunker that was 7 layers underground that exists in North Carolina. It's defunct, but the walls on it were wider than this trailer. I mean, the doors, and we had to rappel down the shafts to get down to the basement where they had. Listen to this. You're gonna love this. They had a case officer that was captured. Now, this is training, okay? She was captured, and she was down there sitting in a chair. We had to get into this thing, right? So this whole month-long process ended up being culmination exercise. I can tell you that we had a lot of friendly fire going on. right? Because you got guys coming downstairs and upstairs to meet. And so that's a tough mission to do. You know, it's a direct action. That's a nightmare mission. I planned it. I actually had the Charlotte SWAT team as my G force, right? They were my G's, which was awesome because I had the plans. You know, I bought the plans off some guy for some whatever, you know,
a stack of Dons that thick.
I mean, Dons. Yeah, that's it. The Dons. You know, it was like a drug deal that we made to get these plans. Anyway, that's fake world. Reality world, that mission ain't going to happen. But as Jeff is alluding to, you draw them out and they're in the open. Yeah, absolutely. That's a great idea. If you want to, it's kind of like a call out on a SWAT team. You just call the guy out and say, "Hey, your girlfriend's down the corner. She wants to talk to you." Now he's away from his weapons. So there you go.
Thanks, Doc. So while you've got the stage, comments on Donald Trump's statement that we're not looking for long-term war. I only want one thing: Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. That's it.
Yeah, I think he's playing it wise. You know, this is the political side of all this stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, the arena that I'm going to end up in, although not with the same kind of stakes. The toughest thing I might have to deal with is, the price of oil or something like that, or whatever. But this right here it shows wisdom, it shows restraint, but it shows that I'm willing to. Nobody wants global thermonuclear annihilation, right? Because that's the thing that could kick off. Nobody wants to do that. We try to de-escalate as much as we can. You know, war is diplomacy by other means, right? Remember Clausewitz. So if we're trying to avoid that, he's doing a good job of that. I'll applaud him on that.
Well, I was gonna move on to the reader submitted story, but I can't do that until Mike has a chance to respond to our friend Rashad. So just to be clear, you're ready for $12 to $15 gallon gas just in time for football season. That is utterly ridiculous. Rashad, in case you didn't get the memo, we have the largest oil reserves in the entire world. We were 100% self-sustaining under Trump's first organization. I'm with Mike Sterling. What on earth are you smoking? Step away from the goat, okay? Mike,
come on, pull up my response. Pull up my response.
Newsflash: the U.S. is energy independent. Exactly.
Doofus.
So, oh my God. Oh, all right. So moving on from there, this one's pretty good. This is our reader submitted story from yesterday. So thanks to Bill Harry. He's getting in the fray now with Dale and Dee Dee and Roger. They've all been just sharing a tremendous amount of information, but this one's pretty interesting. It's from my state here in Florida. Alligator Alcatraz, Florida eyes state's biggest ice center in the Everglades. If somebody were to get out, there's nowhere to run, nowhere to hide. Only the alligators and pythons are waiting. That's why I like to call it Alligator Alcatraz. Florida Attorney General James Meyer. So, quick vote on this. All in favor of Alligator Alcatraz? Thumbs up.
I mean, but could we get a few for the Rio Grande? I'm just saying.
I'm sure plenty. We can arrange that. I mean, we have plenty of things in Florida that will kill you. Go ahead, Mike.
There's about 100 of them right here in Huntsville for you. We'll round them up, ship them on down there. Be good. And they're big.
Put a floating prison in Lake Jessup, which has the highest alligator concentration in the state of Florida.
So you know what's crazy about that? My wife was born in Clearwater, but moved to Sanford when she was 7 years old. So she grew up on Lake Jessup, and her older brother used to torture her and the other girls and throw them in the water in Lake Jessup, which, as you mentioned, is covered up in gators. Yeah. So if you're wondering why my wife is so tough, that would be part of the reason right there. So Mike, go ahead and hit us with the conflicted question, and we'll go to Doc first, then Jeff, then you.
All right. Okay, at the edge of a collapse, a close friend who isn't a prepper begged you to help him buy him and his young family some supplies. Upon your arrival, the supermarket is packed with people who want to secure supplies as well. That's what you get for being late. And emotions are running high. Your friend separates from you, idiot, to grab something, and suddenly an argument breaks out over food. 3 men try to intimidate your friend. He snaps and pulls out a weapon. Jackass. Incapacitating 2 of the men. Chaos takes over. The police are on their way. What would you do in the situation. But the first thing that I want to know is, how come all you haven't been mashing that like and subscribe button?
There you go. That a boy. And Rashad is still at it over there, by the way, saying our oil comes from Saudi, United Arab Emirates, and Syria. You're clueless, Rashad. You're truly clueless. How much are you getting paid to pollute people's chats? So, Doc, back to the conflicted question. What would you do in this situation that Mike's posed?
I love this question. This is straight up, scenario-driven tactics 101. So, first of all, you need to ensure prior to this happening that you got CCW safe, right? We're just going to throw it out there.
Okay.
You want to be prepared, right? In this situation, you're not going to pull the card out just yet. But what you're going to do is, anytime that there are bullets flying, you got to assess immediate danger, right? That's number one. What we got to do. Check your surroundings, watch your six, all this stuff. That guy left his six, right? That was his six. He left over there. You can slap him in the back of the head later. So distance yourself. When you're getting ambushed, if they were ambushing you, you close the gap, right? But now you've got a friend that's ambushed somebody else, or more or less in contact. So they're gonna possibly return fire. Tensions are high. We're in a semi to non-permissive environment because we're in this situation. So de-escalate if possible, but it's already sounded like it's escalated. So you're going to pull security. You're going to, now if your buddy's hurt or something like that, you're going to take tactical cover, right? Cover versus concealment. You can't do cover, do concealment. You can't do that. I'm up, he sees me, I'm down. That means you're moving and you're zigging and zagging if rounds are being fired. So it really is a OODA loop kind of thing. Observe, orient, decide, act, and then get off the platform. Exfil. But if you got to wait for cops, you don't want to run out of the place. Once things have de-escalated, I've had to do this in Dallas with a assailant that was trying to hijack a car from a lady with two kids in the back seat. And so I had to wait for the cops to show up, right? Stop the action, wait for the cops. Had to give it, a story. That is the most dangerous time, though. You've got guns, shots fired, officer, 911. That is the most dangerous time. Link up. Anybody in the military knows in combat, most dangerous time between two forces, link up. So put the guns away, render aid to people that need it. And and hold what you got till they get there. But that's a dangerous time. They come busting in. It's an active shooter scenario. They're gonna go right to the sound of the bullets or where they were. That's my plan.
So if and when the apocalypse ever comes, I'm gonna make sure that I'm part of the future governor of Texas team, and we'll just fall in line right behind Doc Pete. Jeff, your thoughts?
Well, once bullets start flying, that becomes the X. And the first rule is get off the X. Now, you don't want to necessarily abandon your friend, but your friend, you also don't want to die in him. You'd say Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, you're not going to run out together and face the Bolivian army. Now, if your friend can get away, great, let him get away. You're under no obligation to detain him or do anything like that. But at the same time, do you want to get shot too? Because I assume you have a family and your first obligation is to your family. Friends, family first, immediate family first, extended family second, friends third, acquaintances fourth. So, there's a hierarchy of what you got to watch, who you're taking care of, and your friend ain't number one on the list.
Well, Man in Black would probably take objection to that. Maybe that friend is some hot damsel in distress.
Well, then you've married her, and then she's your immediate family, right?
Yeah, it's not quite the comment of the night, but at second place. Mike, go ahead.
This guy, okay, I'm just going to say we've all got that one friend. We've all got that one friend that we just look at and go, oh, dude, or worse, it's a cousin. Or a sibling, and you're just like, oh God, why am I in this situation? Oh yeah, I'm in this kind of a situation again because of you. Yeah. So
doesn't have to be a friend or a family member. It just has to be Florida man.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah. So
there you go.
I would say in this situation, I'm gonna go ninja smoke bomb. Poof. I'm gonna grab this idiot by the collar. Grab probably the cart if I think I can get the cart out of there, and we're exfilling off this. We're gone. Like I said, I'm dropping smokes in my wake. Just no, I'm not staying for this. because the key part of this was the first sentence, on the edge of the apocalypse, or of a whatever, you know.
Yeah.
I got to throw this out there. Y'all are going to see the footage soon, but we did situational training at WAFT where our families trained a couple weeks ago. And Mike was the first one to go. It was essentially a gas station at night with assailants. And Philip Tapino, the owner of WAFT, is a good friend of ours, and he was leading the exercise. And at the end of it, he said Mike did better than anybody ever in any situational training that he's ever seen. So Mike may be joking around, but he knows what he's doing. And, you know, you should heed everything all three of these gentlemen are saying. But it was really interesting. Doc, I haven't told you this, but I'm going to send you the video when we're done. There was an 18-year-old young lad from Illinois that came with John Wheaton and Dave Kemp.
Beautiful.
And he's the second guy. Like, he got to watch Mike go, and Mike went half a dozen times. And he's standing there at the gas pumps, and this girl, Kat's her name, you know, comes up to him, starts to kind of hit on him and stuff. Next thing you know, he's on his ass. And this kid's like 6'3", 6'4". He's on his ass being dragged around the vehicle, and he gets completely smoked. We get back here. They've got to catch a flight early in the morning out of Orlando. He's sending it to his dad and his girlfriend and everything. He sends it to his girlfriend. A minute later, she responds back and she said, well, it's good to know you can't protect me.
Oh, yeah. Oh, it's terrible.
The footage is hilarious. I'll make sure I've got a phone video that Dave Kemp took, but we actually have professional camera crew there, and the final production video is going to be absolutely crazy. So anyways, guys, I appreciate your input and your time. Just a quick reminder, make sure you go to survivaldispatchnews.com, sign up for a free Substack account. You'll get our Saturday watch guide. That way you'll never miss anything when you didn't get a notification. Please support our sponsors, CCW Safe, Carnival, which is a really interesting product. No mRNA, no antibiotics, grass finished, high quality, 100% American meats with a 25-year shelf life. And you can use the code EATMEAT to get 10% off. And if you're in law enforcement, reach out to support at survivaldispatch.com. And let me introduce you to Jeff Nicholas from Compliant Technologies. Several of us here have been hit with the glove. Mike, suspiciously enough, though, hasn't, even though we've tried to get him a couple times.
Specifically said that I will shoot your pinky toe off if you get anywhere near me with that glove.
No, I've lost enough body parts. I threatened to get him at Jason Sawyer's in Georgia a couple weeks ago, and he literally threatened to shoot me in the foot.
Quick question for Mike: Did your parents have any male children?
They had none that lived.
Oh,
yeah, whatever. Yeah,
vicious.
The best battle is the battle that you never have to fight.
There you go. Fair enough. We will be back at 7 p.m. tomorrow night with a very special guest. Our friend Patrick Byrne will be with us. He's got a new book out, Danger Close, it's called. I have read it twice now. It is an amazing recollection of this man's life, being involved with the deep state and everything else. Not part of the deep state, but he exposed a lot of stuff. It's really interesting. So join us tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Heaven's Report, by the way, will broadcast at 5:30 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. It'll be a conversation between Drew Burquest and myself. That's it. This is Chris Evans signing off. God bless America. Enjoy the closing video.
Go, non-stop, stop. Go, non-stop, stop. Go, non-stop, stop. What a time to be alive. Winning is in the air. America, red chalk paper. America's back, just begun. Remember, he said the best is yet to come. America first, baby. I'm ready for this to fall. I can win. Go, non-stop, stop. America first, baby. Reported for you, no wars, more peace, prosperity. America, President Trump, baby. Stop for to stop the crime. We're never going back, we're winning all the time. America first, baby. For you and this chasing down all years. And it's been so long for the Go, now stop. President Trump, baby. The American dream now realized. We're gonna work real hard, we're gonna right the wrong. We're gonna fight, keep American strong. Freedom at last, it's so long. America first, now we finally got it all. Wish upon, praying every day. We believe, oh Lord, 47's all the way all the way. America will prosper, families will prosper, everyone will prosper. Let's go, yes. The baby's left to come, go, now stop. America first, baby. America first, baby. Let's go, yes.